So today I am facing Mr. Scatman, and he is a pretty high-ranked battler here in Pokemon Legends of Roria. So, he starts off with the Rotom Wash, which is a really good Pokemon. Really scary, actually. And normally my check to it would be Chansey, but I don't have that on this team. So I figured Sableye or Excadrill would be the next best option for that job. So he goes for the Hydro Pump, which does massive damage compared to my Foul Play. So I decided I'm just going to go for the Quick Recovery to keep Sableye in good condition before I switched out. But he goes for the Volt Switch and goes into Mana Buzz, so that's just convenient anyways. And the good thing about fighting Mana Buzz is that most sets run Defog, Toxic, Roost, and then Foul Play to check physical attackers. But some might also run Brave Bird, but none of those will do anything to Toxapex. So Toxapex is always the perfect check in this situation, and I can always get a free Toxic off on something. And it looks like that was going to be a Charizard. So in Pokemon Brick Bronze, Charizard actually has mad potential to be scary, because most players in Brick Bronze are going to run either Mega Charizard X or Mega Charizard Y. And the scary part is having to figure out which one they're running, because both of them are completely different types of Pokemon. One is a physical sweeper and the other one is a hard-hitting special attacker. So here I went into Melodic, because in case he went for the Earthquake, Milotic would take the hit, because that's just what I've seen. Because if he was going to go into Charizard, he probably had Mega Charizard X, and then he would go for the Earthquake, or even just a Dragon Dance setup. So even if it was Mega Charizard Y, it still wouldn't matter too much, because Milotic would probably still be able to take a Solar Beam at full HP, and then I could just switch out into something else to take the hit again. So here he goes into Rotom. I got the Burn, which is never always a great thing, but it's not so bad, because having status is always good. But I would prefer to have gotten a Toxic in most situations against a bulky Pokemon like Rotom. So here he actually decides to stay in and go for the Hydro Pump, which is unfortunate because he gets that miss. And then I go for the Earthquake to finish him off. And the good thing about Excadrill is that it has Mode Breaker, so that way it can still hit Earthquake on Pokemon with Levitate, which means that Rotom is in a bad situation when it comes to Excadrill. So here he goes into Mana Buzz to get the Fog off. I go into Toxapex, and I know that with Mana Buzz he can't do anything to Toxapex, so that gave me the freedom to switch out into Milotic, just predicting the Charizard, but instead he goes into Alakazam, which is also fine, because it just did not appear that he had Energy Ball on that Alakazam. And if he goes for Psychic, and I predict that the next time, I could always go into Sableye and get that immunity off. So here he goes into Aegislash, which is also really good. But, Milotic is always a good check to Aegislash, but Toxapex is even better of a check, because in case he goes for Swords Dance, I could always go for the Haze. So here he just starts deciding to attack, which does absolutely nothing to Toxapex. And I have Regenerator, so I can really just play around and afford to take damage. So here I go for Toxic in case he tries to switch out, but he decides to stay in for whatever reason. And it looks like he's sacrificing this Aegislash, so I just land the Scald and take him out. So next comes in the Charizard. And unfortunately my stun rocks were not up, because if they were still up and he did not defog, it would have been perfect right now, because that Charizard would have taken massive damage. So here he goes into Mega Charizard X, which is actually really scary because they can pull off crazy late game sweeps. He goes for the Dragon Dance, and I go for the Scald, which does actually pretty good damage for Toxapex. So here I decide that I'm going to go for the Haze, and luckily he did not attack, because if we went for Earthquake, it could have done fatal damage to my team. So here with the Haze, his stat boosts all go void, and now he has to decide what he's gonna do. Either he attacks, either he switches, or he goes for more Dragon Dances, and he goes for another Dragon Dance, and he takes massive damage from that Toxic. So now I figured it would be a great time to go for Protect, just so I could let that Toxic do even more damage to the Charizard. And after I go for the Protect, he's gonna have one last turn with that Charizard to do said thing. So I figured out, since he's going for Dragon Claw, I may as well go into Tangrowth, because this Pokemon has got absolutely no action this whole game. So I could use the Rocky Helmet, and even the Rocky Helmet or no Rocky Helmet, he was gonna die anyways. So here he goes into Garchomp, and I go for the Sleep Powder. Like, I don't think he knew what type of Pokemon this was. And unfortunately I'm not running Hidden Power Ice in this. I tried to get Hidden Power Ice, but for whatever reason I must have messed up the IVs, because this is not Hidden Power Ice. So I just went for the Giga Drain to slowly take down that Garchomp. And he does wake up, he goes for the Dragon Claw, takes massive damage, and I get another Giga Drain off. giving me some HP. So really, Tangrowth, I've kind of noticed, isn't as useful as a Pokemon like Toxapex, for example, because Toxapex just has a far more useful, versatile typing, and it also has that special defense, where Tangrowth, you can only use it for physical attackers, but it's very good at that one thing. So here he goes into Alakazam. I already figured that I may as well just take it out with the fob. So although he had Dazzling Gleam, I was fine putting Sableye out there to take him out because I knew Sableye wouldn't do anything against Mana Buzz anyways, so I thought it was a trade-off we're making. And here I go into Toxapex and I gave him the Toxic, which is basically GG for him, because now that he can't switch, he is basically on a timer and he can't really do anything back to me. So I just go to Milotic, seeing that he's going for the Fog, so I can just get that competitive boost and end this game quicker. And then I go for the Scald, which does actually less damage than I had expected, but still enough to end him, and he dies from the Toxic, and that is the game.